Okay, in this video, we're actually going to take some of those categorical displays that we looked at in a different video, and if you were asked to describe them, kind of talk about what you would do. And to be honest, with categorical graphs, it's not as absolutely cut and dried. When we get to quantitative graphs, if they ask you to describe them, there's going to be kind of a pretty set process that we're going to use. Honestly, when you're describing categorical data sets, just identify some notable features, and that's going to vary a little bit from your data set to data set. But like if we're looking at this one, the highest degree held by a CEO. When I look at what's going on here, one of the things I would definitely point out is something along the lines of that NBA is the largest group, and that group is more than double the next largest. So saying it's the largest group is good. If all you said was that, it'd be fine. A better answer would be to say that it's to point out how much larger that is than any of the others. Another thing we could point out is that all of the categories except MBA and bachelors have fewer than 5 CEOs in them. And that kind of makes the point that except for those two, the rest are kind of scattered. The rest of the CEOs are scattered in small numbers in those other groups. For this favorite fruit one, you could say more than half of those asked prefer apples or bananas. I mean, these two are the bigger two by a pretty decent chunk. You could just point out that apples and bananas are the largest. That would be fine too. So again, just kind of pick out some notable features, and that would be good. Especially when it's just a table, there's not a whole lot to really necessarily point to. If we're looking at bar graphs, again, you're trying to identify some notable features. So when I'm looking at this bar graph, I might say bananas and grapes were preferred noticeably less than the other fruits. And that would be okay, but I'm going to go even a little bit further and kind of give some value around how much. Every other fruit is preferred by at least twice as many people as banana and grapes are. And that kind of makes the point like, yeah, banana and grapes are the least favored, but all of these other ones are more than double where bananas are, or more than double, and actually you could even say more than triple, grapes. So that's a little bit stronger statement. You could also say blueberries were preferred by more people than any other fruit. That's at least pointing out the maximum one. I think this first one's a little bit stronger statement, but that would work too. In this favorite color one on the right, blue is favored the most of all of the colors, and it's roughly double that of the next closest color. So again, it's a little bit stronger to not just say blue is the most, but blue looks like it's somewhere around 38%. Green, which is the next highest, is around 19. So if that's exactly double, in fact. It's stronger to point out that it's roughly double that of the next color. Orange and purple were favored the least. Both were favored by less than 5% of people. Again, kind of pointing out like, yes, they're the lowest, and it's by a decent margin. If you're asked to compare multiple sets of categorical data, most likely would be some sort of double bar graph. Again, I would compare notable features, but when you're doing that, you might also kind of point out and look at the comparison between the two groups. So here, this graph, I know this is small and hard to read, but this is looking at how many cups of coffee were sold, and it's comparing, must be a downtown coffee stand to a mall stand. So one of the statements I make if I needed to compare these were that there were more cups of coffee sold at the mall in every month except April. So that's kind of an important comparison because it's kind of pointing out that the mall was taller in every single month except this month here. So that's pretty notable that this is the only time it happened. You could also say the largest difference between the two sites was in February. So February had high sales for both. You could point that out too. But that's also where we see the largest difference in sales. There was a 16-cup difference between those two in that month of February. Over here, we're looking at participation in camp activities. I could say swimming had the highest participation for both boys and girls, with 35 people participating. So that's pointing out that it's the highest and that they're the same, that they both have 35. You could also point out that the only activity with more participation by boys than girls was canoeing. In every other category, it's either the same or higher for girls. So again, this is not a super precise, you always have to do a certain thing when you're comparing or when you're talking about categorical data. You just want to try and find some notable features that are worth pointing out.